Next up, we have McKay. He's the founder and publisher of the FreshToast. Very fun, very informative cannabis and lifestyle news outlet. And he'll be joined by Rudolph. Bring you on.
Thank you.
Anything?
Thank you so much. And of course, give Javier a big round of applause. So are you having fun? How many could say that the food here has been exceptionally good? Benzinga is known for that, rather than having, some of the boring food that other things come. Come on up, darling. So let's give a big round of applause. This is her very first appearance at a Benzinga conference. So be good, and it's interesting, and it's also highly topical for not only 420, but for the conversations today. So let's just go right to it, since everybody's dying of curiosity. Tell us what your company does and how it can impact their daily lives.
So Cannachange is a sustainability initiative, and we function through our mobile app, which is available on Android or iOS if you'd like to download it. And we allow consumers to return recyclable, reusable, and compostable cannabis packaging to our participating dispensaries for points that then turn into dispensary credit. So we're working on increasing awareness and education around sustainability in cannabis, because as I'm sure we're all aware of, we create a lot of waste. But I definitely think there is a lack of education on how we can reduce that or do our part as consumers, but also then on the cannabis business end.
So when you really look at the packaging, you go to a Target, a Walmart, and you can see how products have changed dramatically over the years, where you had a plastic box that went into a plastic, something inside of that, then into a plastic container. Your company is going to reduce that for the cannabis industry. And a little birdie told me, don't you have an initiative going on for major cities?
We do. So I'm currently working with the city of Denver on a pilot program to increase cannabis sustainability in dispensaries there, and also to just bring more awareness to brands that are really having that mission for sustainability and are committed to honoring that with their consumers. So we're hoping to spread awareness in other states and cities as well, but Denver is one of our main focuses as of now.
So when you begin looking at that, why did Denver pick you?
So I think that there is a lot of independent dispensaries trying to increase their sustainability, but without an incentive for consumers, or regardless of the credits, which are one incentive, but we also allow consumers to track their waste saved within the app. So there's not really another app like ours. There's not another company like ours. There's not a system that allows consumers to access their waste saved, get points or credits for returning their cannabis packaging. So I think for a city like Denver that is very progressive and innovative, that was something that really caught their eye.
So really, when you talk about it, dispensaries and brands can be incentivized and show really and connect with a millennial population and the green movement, because it rewards them for being good citizens.
Right. And I do think that consumers, for taking responsibility for their own sustainability measures, do deserve a reward or a credit system of some sort. I think that when somebody takes the initiative to participate in things like that, they definitely deserve something in return.
I love it. But just as a little takeaway for our listening audience today, what are a few things that they can do?
So I think that the first step is having the awareness, which I think a lot of us think we have, but maybe aren't sure exactly how much waste we're producing ourselves, or in cannabis specifically, whenever I bring up the statistic of 150 million tons of waste being produced annually just in cannabis, and that continues to grow every year, that's something that shocks people. So if you can kind of measure your own waste in a reasonable manner and track that day to day or week to week or even month to month, I think that really helps people scale their progress when it comes to increasing their own sustainability participation. I think that one of the biggest things you can start doing today is automatically, when you pick up like a plastic water bottle, for example, think about where that came from and what you're going to do with it afterwards, because likely all of us are going to go through all of these in the trash. Think about where those are going, think about how many are being accumulated, and do the same for cannabis packaging. So when you're purchasing a product, don't just think about the product itself, but the packaging. What are you going to do with it afterwards? What had to happen for that packaging to be produced? And how can we make that entire process more sustainable, starting with ourselves and our purchasing power? Because I think consumers often lack that awareness of how much power we have and where we spend our money. So if you're loyal to a company that really doesn't show that mission for sustainability or show that they care, I guarantee there's another company or will be soon in the future that does have that mission and is committed to offering sustainability initiatives and increasing their own environmental awareness. So I think having that freedom and flexibility as a consumer and being able to continue valuing sustainability regardless of what companies are doing, and knowing there are businesses that always will care, that you can take your money there and your purchasing power really does matter.
That is just excellent advice, and it's timely advice as more and more people become environmentally conscious. Now, you said 150 million tons of waste just by the cannabis industry.
Yes, every year.
Every year. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's more than I weigh.
Yeah. I think it's more than nearly anything in the world weighs.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, you know, what's interesting is the industry is continuing to grow. How do you think your company fits in the bigger picture of the industry now?
Yeah, so my main mission in the long run is to create a closed loop system where the returned packaging is then either broken down into recyclable material or composted as well. We're seeing a lot more curbside composting become available. And then actually having the material that's still valuable, because there is still value in that supply chain, returned to the manufacturers themselves. So we're really retaining all of that value and all of that material rather than it just being single waste and getting disposed of and a company never seeing it again. So hopefully with the continued use of Cannachange, we can then eventually expand and create that entire closed loop system and implement sustainability as much as possible through the supply chain.
What started you on this journey? I mean, cannabis is probably the hottest industry that has a clear public backing, a clear public understanding, and is the newest thing that's happened probably in the last 30 years and beats crypto, beats all this other stuff. What started your journey to get you to where we are today here on the Benzinga stage?
Yeah, so I think as a consumer that was just accumulating so much waste regularly, I was shocked that there wasn't something more direct to do with it, that wasn't just throwing it in the landfill. I was really surprised there was no one really working to divert it in a more accessible way. I think, again, without offering an incentive of some sort or having an initiative being offered and widely available, that it's really difficult for consumers to participate. So I was surprised there wasn't more of that, especially when in other industries, like you have the fashion industry, the makeup industry, where a lot of companies allow you to almost rent the clothes and then return them or return your makeup packaging for points to credits. So I started thinking about that and how that could be done through an app to hopefully be the most efficient way to streamline all of that. And then started developing it, working on the idea, and hopefully expanding to the entire supply chain. So.
That is incredible. Who are there two role models of companies that are doing well in cannabis or out of cannabis that you kind of look to as a guiding star?
Yeah, I think I don't know if anyone was present for the presentation on Josephine and Billy's earlier, but I think that that's a company that is doing really great things.
Which company?
Josephine and Billy's.
Oh, has anybody? There you go. Give them a round of applause for doing a good job.
And then there was also a presentation earlier on social equity and partnerships in that. And I know a company, Minorities for Medical Marijuana. I think all of the points they made were incredible. And it's companies like that or organizations like that that really inspire me to continue my work. I think that when you're a social equity startup, especially, or a Black woman in cannabis, the representation matters. And hearing people talk about what they're doing and the importance of partnering with social equity organizations and companies, I think that that's really inspirational and is really what keeps me going. So it's people like that that got me to start Cannachange and helped me continue it.
And how long has the company been around?
So we've been officially around since November, but we launched our app in March. So
well, wait a minute. So you launched your app in March, and you're already doing a deal with the city of Denver.
Yes. So we're working on piloting there.
Most people would not be able to move that quickly, and that is a good thing. Give her a round of applause. And as we know, Denver is a key part to the history of the legalized cannabis movement. So this is something that will jump into other cities soon. So kind of going a little, what are the next steps? What are the next things for you and Cannachange?
Yeah, so right now we're doing $1 million raise for capital. to hopefully be able to pilot in dispensaries and credit them for the points and credits that they're offering their consumers, so that we can have that model to show other states and other dispensaries that are interested. I think that that's the biggest thing with a startup, is being able to model what you're doing, and especially with a sustainability program, and knowing a lot of dispensaries do want to implement it but aren't sure exactly how it works, and what their part in it is, or how many consumers will participate. I think that that's the next step, is us getting rolled out into more dispensaries and being able to credit the ones who are piloting our program to offer that model to others.
So if you had a dream, if you said, at this conference, here's the 3 other states I want to be in, what are 3 other states?
Definitely California. I think we're in one dispensary in Maine right now, but I would love to get more.
California, Maine, and
I think Oregon would be
Oregon.
another
Notice
great
you
one.
didn't say Washington, where I live, even
I
though
was
I'm from
going
the
to
South. South.
That's 4th.
Oh, how many of y'all know somebody who owns dispensaries in Maine, Oregon, or California? Look out there. He does. There's somebody you can talk to. Winner, chicken dinner. Thank you for all that. We love that. So now this is what Benzinga is all about, is connecting people and making sure that things happen and the world walks away as a better place. So on a scale of 1 to 10 with dispensaries, 10 hardest, how easy is it for dispensaries to initiate this program?
Oh, I would say 1. I mean,
Wait a minute, what? They get all these benefits and it's still easy?
Yeah, I mean, that was my hope through an app and them creating a profile that really offers them all of these functionalities, that would be the easiest way to implement it and allow that consumer dispensary relationship to function on both ends pretty seamlessly. So I think especially in states that have a growing cannabis industry like New York, New Jersey, especially there where they're kind of at the baseline and can implement this initially, it's very, very easy to do.
Well, that's a key part to it all. And so far, have you done any consumer data on how people are reacting to the app?
Yeah, so we did a retailer disclosure initiative with a Canada-based company called the Apical Collective, and we found through that 60% of consumers want retailers to help them change their spending habits and increase their sustainability there, and that 96% of them would change their purchasing habits if companies were to shift towards more sustainability initiatives. So when developing the app and our initiative itself, that's something that we use as kind of a way to get dispensaries more interested and show them that consumers will participate if this is offered to them. So they're really just looking for that demand to be met.
So let me make sure, I'm from the South, so sometimes we're a little slow. What you just shared was 6 out of every 10 consumers want dispensaries to have some recycling option. And that if they had it, 10 out of every 10 consumers say they would modify their behavior to be able to take advantage of that.
Correct. So, yeah.
Well, there's something right there that I think we've all learned.
Yeah, it's a big benefit to be able to differentiate yourself from your competitors, especially with a mission like sustainability that I think is a blind spot for a lot of them, or at least something that they're not actively participating in. So that's definitely a big advantage for people who do participate as well.
Now, I'm going to throw you a curveball, because I didn't tell you beforehand I was going to ask this question. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Could you work with brands specifically independently of dispensaries?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us more about that, because there's a lot of brands here that are in a lot of different states, and maybe that's a new way to go too.
Yeah, we've had a lot of brands actually offer to credit dispensaries that we function in for the credits that they're offering consumers for the return of the packaging. So my hope is that as we're operating in more dispensaries, that brands are then able to get their packaging actually returned and remanufacture it if possible, and continue to see that value maintained through the supply chain. So if a company does, if they're a manufacturer, if they're a producer, if they're selling packaging to partners, and that's something that would be beneficial to them and they would be willing to credit dispensaries, that's absolutely an avenue that we're looking into as well.
So if you were so just making sure I'm clear with this. So if you found a brand that's in, I don't know, Colorado, let's just pick 4 random states. Let's say Colorado, California, Maine, and Oregon. And they all had products in there through licensing deals. You could work with them, and then they can work with you with all the other dispensaries to provide feedback and credits to their customers allowing them to have better brand placement in those stores already.
Correct. And
Oh, wow. Well, if I was a brand, I might be talking to you at the cocktail party this afternoon.
yeah, definitely increases engagement and retention for brands as more of your products are being bought and returned to dispensaries. That just continues that cycle of the consumer loyalty. So it's kind of beneficial to everyone involved in the industry.
I think that's amazing. So earlier you mentioned you were raising $1 million because you're already doing a deal with the city of Denver and you're looking to branch it into other areas, correct?
Correct.
So what are you thinking about for that $1 million? And what do you think of, what should people here know about that?
Yeah, my main goal is, again, to credit the dispensaries for the consumer credits that they're offering, to have this model that can be offered to other dispensaries. I think that also with the back-end waste management of recycling, composting, dishwashers for sanitizing reusable glass jars, for example, is something that a lot of dispensaries are also interested in, but want to see the return on profit for that as well. So if we're able to credit them for the back-end waste management and the credits they're offering consumers, that's my main goal with raising capital.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, because, once again, Southern, what you're saying is you're using this money to help dispensaries and brands save money and increase their bottom line while you make money also. And you're doing that by gathering data and have very clear pathways for them to invest in ways to help make the industry better and more green.
Correct. Yes.
So you really are the shining star of green for the green industry, for the green rush, the green boom, the green movement.
That's the goal. Thank you.
Well, I think it's important. It's a very topical. We look at social equity as an important part of where we are now, but as a globe, we also need to look at how are we going to manage climate change? And when you look at the industry in general, it's not the most the climate-friendly environment because of the amount of water it takes.
Absolutely. I think it's really unfortunate that for an industry that starts with a plant, we are so unsustainable. So I think shifting that awareness and education for consumers, companies, all sides of the industry is really important. I definitely think that we'll see a push for more legislation and regulations around sustainability. And eventually companies will have to participate in a sustainability initiative. So I think it's important to get ahead of that while you can, instead of having to catch up once you're forced to. And that's one of my main goals with bringing more awareness around sustainability in cannabis as well.
And you're really doing a good job on Instagram, engaging really influencers and people on how they can make a difference within the industry.
Yeah, thank you. That's one of our biggest missions as well, as the accessibility portion of sustainability, because a lot of sustainability initiatives aren't as accessible as they should be or widely available. And also with the education and awareness, I think that social media is a great way to get people of all ages, from all backgrounds and all walks of life, all areas of the world involved and educated on what you're doing and your efforts in sustainability, for example.
And that your handle on Instagram is
Cannachange, and on all other social media as well.
Well, that's something. And of course, I'm the founder publisher of the FreshToast, the largest consumer voice. 1 million people see our content every day, and we will share something out about Cannachange to our 1.5 million social media followers. Our largest is the FreshToast News on Facebook with over 1.3 million people, and we get a ton of engagement with our people. And a huge chunk of our audience is under 40, which this is something that will truly resonate. So maybe you could do a series on your Instagram that's, 5 days for 5 days getting better.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think getting more consumers involved and to participate is always a benefit, and hopefully creates more of that community around cannabis and then sustainability specifically.
Perfect. Now, as we start to wrap up, we know there's 3 things you've asked. Can you want to reiterate the most important thing that you want everyone in this room? What's the action you want them to take?
Yeah, I think intentional consumption is the most important thing. I think we're constantly consuming media, food, drinks, everything without intentionally thinking about what it is that we're consuming. And so especially when it comes to waste and single-use waste, I think it's really important that we are intentionally choosing things based off of where it came from, how it was produced, what we're doing with it afterwards, and where it goes, after it's disposed of afterwards. Even if it's disposed of sustainably, it's still important to know exactly where it's going and what's being done with it. So intentionally considering all of those things when you're purchasing a product, consuming a product, is the first step to, I think, truly gaining awareness around sustainability and increasing your actions around that.
Well, one, before we give her a round of applause, that is one of the most selfless acts I've seen on this board, because so many other people would remind people that she's raising $1 million. She's looking for dispensaries in California, Maine, and Oregon, apparently not Washington. And also, she's looking for brands that want to connect better with those millennial green environmental clients. Most people would have said that, but her appeal was she's doing this for the right reason. And not only is she doing it to make the environment green, she's looking to make their investors green. Let's give her a big round of applause. Thank you. And up next is we're returning the fabulous Javier, and they're going to have a new treat that will keep everybody engaged in Las Vegas. So without further ado, I'm turning it back.
Let's hear it up once again for JJ and O'Neill.